proposing and testing hypothesis. So what is hypothesis? What is hypothesis? Maximum. So now, for example, a student is a topper. In a particular subject, he has failed. So your question is, why he has failed? That will be your question. What are the answers can be? He is weak in that subject. Any other? I am just asking you individually. So I am asking you a question. So only that particular answer can be, he is weak in that subject. He is sick. Then he does not. He did not study for the exam. Difficult. Subject is difficult. Answer. So these are the different answers you are giving. But as a staff, I don't know what is the real reason. So these are my hypotheses. For a question I got n number of answers, right? Those are my hypotheses. And with that hypothesis, I have to come to a conclusion. Conclusion, which is the perfect answer. So for a particular question, you have different answers. We have different hypotheses. Those hypotheses are only going to be tested, and with that test, we will be forming a conclusion. So now we have an idea what is hypothesis. So that is hypothesis testing. We are going to. What are you going to do? So another example also I told yesterday. What was it? So placing two plants inside and outside. So that is also a hypothesis. So to come to a conclusion, I did that and tested it. So this is called as hypothesis. Okay? Any doubts in this? So automatically when a question is arising, you will be proposing different answers. So when a question is asked, proposal will come. So that will be the first step. First is you will be proposing the hypothesis, and then next step what will you do? You will collect samples for this. And then after collecting the samples, you will be doing the analysis. And then you will draw the conclusion. So when it comes to hypothesis, first you propose different hypotheses, and then you will collect samples. Why the samples are collected? To test the hypothesis, and then with the collected samples you will be implementing your test and then analyze what has happened. With the analyzation you will draw a conclusion. This will be your overall format. So if a scientist, it is not needed that he should only make the hypothesis which is correct. He can also try wrong hypothesis. With those wrong only, you will come to a conclusion of which is right. It is not needed that always when someone is proposing an answer, it must be correct. So when testing all those wrong answers and correct answers only, we can come to a conclusion. So what is the need of hypothesis? Why it is needed? Why we have to do these things? Why we have to do this? I don't want to ask specifically, just in general tell me answer. Anyone answer? Why we need to do hypothesis? Why it is needed? To get a logical answer. Only for that. Proof. So the main thing is proof. Whatever we talk, we should have some proof. You can't just go and blabber whatever you want. So that's only we have this method hypothesis. And then we have different hypotheses for a particular question and do analysis on it and then draw a conclusion. Okay with this? So in this one we will be having different steps. While proposing itself, we will have different ideas, and then when it comes to, so then next step will be you are going to choose the participants who are going to be in that. So first you will select the participants and then observe which you have different type of strategies. You may take a survey or conduct experiments. So these are the implementation steps to conduct the hypothesis. So then you have to choose the participants and then you will choose the conduction method and then analyze the data, draw the conclusion. This will be your overall step. Hypothetical deductive model. This is one of the normal investigation model which is done. So most frequent they do this model. What should they do in this model is, for example, I have asked the question and a scientist have come up with an hypothesis. So he will first see the experiments which are already done. So that part is called as literature survey. So first he will look into the literature survey. So in the literature survey, the hypothesis which he made is already done and the experiment is also satisfactory. He is accepting with that fact, then he will proceed with this. If not, he is not satisfied or there is no experiment done for that hypothesis, then he will start making new ones. He will do the experiment. Okay? So from that experiment, if it is wrong, he will detect that. If it is correct, he will go with it. So that model is called as hypothetical deductive model. So for example, a question is asked, the scientist will come up with various hypotheses and then he will check whether it is already done or not. If it is already done and the experiment is also done and is satisfactory, he will go with that. If the experiment is not done or is not satisfactory, then he will make his new hypothesis and work on it. If it is wrong, he will detect it and find a new way to rectify it. So that is called as hypothetical deductive model. Okay? Okay? Who's there? Who was there? So, to do an hypothesis testing, I am going to plan an experiment. So, whenever planning an experiment, there will be two types of hypothesis. One is going to be null and another one is alternative. So, the proposed hypothesis which you are doing does not occur, then it is called as null hypothesis. And your proposed effect occurs, it is called as alternative hypothesis. So in general, when you are planning to do an hypothesis for an experiment, we have two types. One is going to be null and the other one is alternative. So here let's take an example. Scientists have come up with a new medicine. Okay. Now what will we do? We have to test that medicine, whether it could work for a particular disease or not. So for that we are going to conduct an experiment. So our hypothesis is whether will be what? Whether the medicine is going to cure a particular disease. That is our hypothesis. And the first step is what will be your null and alternative. What will be your null hypothesis for this? It will not cure. And your alternative will be it will cure. So that is your first step. You have identify your null and alternative. Next, you have proposed your hypothesis. Your proposal is whether it is going to cure or not. Next you will select the participants. So automatically the participants will be who? The patients who are affected with that particular disease. So first just keep in mind, it is just an example. It is not a real life example, it is just an example. Keep in your mind that even if it does not work, it will not harm any of the patients. Okay? So we take that. So your patients are going to be your participants. You can't give it to all the patients. So particular disease patients are taken and then they are the population, and from that you will take a sample population. For example, take you are taking 100 patients with that particular disease. Okay. So this patients will be separated into two different groups. One is going to be experimental group and the other one is control group. So yes, sample participants is divided into two categories. One is going to be experimental group and the other one is control group. So experimental group is the one we are going to give the medicines, and the control group is the one who we are going to observe. So they will not be given that medicine and they are given. If the experimental group pupils are cured, then automatically, then what happens if they are cured? Will this be a success or not? So this will be a success. Your medicine will cure this person. So this is a retesting will be done. Here the analysis part will go on. How many patients are cured? Is there any side effects? Can we give it to the market? So that the analysis phase will be done. This is our overall